By the way, my friends, I haven't even gotten into the meat and potatoes news yet. But if you studied history, you'd know that the Roosevelt family, the Forbes family, the Rockefeller family, Rockefeller started out, the dad of the supposed big founder, John D. Rockefeller, was a snake oil salesman who sold laudanum in the backs of buggies. You know, the guys that get up and say, this will cure all your ails, grow your hair back, fix a broken leg. He was the first guy to launch fleets of those under a company name. So the issue is the drug dealers just made the stuff illegal in the 30s to then jack up prices. And it goes back 300 years ago to the British couldn't get into China. And so the Chinese wouldn't allow them to sell Indian opium into the country. They only allowed the British to come into one port. It took them over 100 years to corrupt the police and take over most of the major cities by bringing in the illegal drugs. And they learned that by the government keeping it illegal, that allowed them to make even bigger profits and take over the criminal networks. And they had two wars in the 1900s or 1800s, 1840s, 1860s, called the Opium Wars or the Boxer Rebellion. This is mainline history. And the very same interest, the British East India Company that had a near world monopoly on it, the French had a little bit of their own operation, but nothing compared to it. That's why the French were in control of Vietnam. That's where they got their opium. The British got theirs out of Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India. That's why the British were the last major colonial power before the Russians to be thrown out of Afghanistan and Pakistan. And they would ship it in to China. And so now they've just made it illegal here because they learned how much bigger their profits were when something was illegal. The Chinese did them a favor by making it illegal. That was how they got in there, made huge profits for decade after decade, and slowly took over town by town as they got people addicted. Now, continuing here. Remember, you got $500 billion a year in opium coming out of Afghanistan alone. Total drugs coming into the U.S., heroin, cocaine, and marijuana, $500 billion. The Justice Department estimates $500 billion street value. That's how you can have Wachovia and Wells Fargo on record in a 2-year period, $376 billion running the aircraft, everything. What happened when they finally got caught because whistleblowers kept coming forward? A $100 million fine. That's 0.3%. And I've likened it to robbing a bank, and you come out with $1 million, and the cops say, give me $3,000, and you can go free. I mean, this isn't a slap on the wrist. This is nothing. And the other big banks have all been caught over the years. Stop being naive. Stop being stupid. Decriminalize all of it now. Take the profit out of it now. But side issue. The point here is the Attorney General's been caught lying, and it turns out they're so dumb, they even put a press release out admitting they knew about this program a year and a half ago. That's now in the news. Well, I had remembered this. I had told listeners last week, other news agencies, I said, go do the research. I remember covering it a year and a half ago when the Attorney General came to Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, California, and Nevada and gave speeches calling to shut down gun shows, shut down gun shops, ban semi-autos because of the crime wave in Mexico and blaming it on the Second Amendment when they have a total gun ban in Mexico. When you have that, the people can't defend themselves. Only the criminals can operate. Now these Los Zetas people, when they get caught, another got caught in Chicago a few months ago, Chicago Tribune, another top Los Zetas guy, and he came out with documents in federal court saying, I work for the U.S. government. Release me. It isn't the U.S. government. It's the criminals working inside the national security state. And now they're coming after your guns. They're shifting the drug war to the gun war against our Second Amendment. So we can live like the poor slaves in Mexico who don't have a right to defend themselves, and only the criminals have the guns. There's been over 30,000 dead in the last 2.5 years in Mexico. That's more than died each year in Vietnam. Over a decade in Vietnam, we lost 58,000. In just a couple years, 30+ thousand and growing. And now it came out this week in the news in the Phoenix paper and others, that cops have been killed with these 30,000 guns. The cops are stopping cars with these guns in them, with criminal drug dealers driving them. Of course. Oh, I forgot to print this off. Guys, can you search it? It was in a bunch of New Mexico papers, but didn't make it nationally. U.S. attorneys to drop prosecution of officials running guns. Mayors of major cities in New Mexico. What was one of them? Columbus? Police chiefs running guns. And they've declared national security, and the U.S. attorneys in West Texas and New Mexico, it's a whole bunch of towns involved, are having to drop the prosecution. They cannot prosecute them because they went ahead and said, do you understand I'm running an operation for the U.S. government? I mean, these people get away with blood. Folks, don't believe me. Just look all this stuff up. Look it up for yourself. Somebody's got to call shenanigans on this. Somebody, because here's the deal. They're getting more and more bold. They're getting more and more crazy. Okay, let's finish those video clips. Now, first ABC whitewashes that, since they damaged their crop, they paid for it. Then they cut into the fact that they're actually helping them grow it. Again, they're just going public with something that's always happened. But so many troops were coming home. Well, some tried to. The NFL star wrote letters home about the opium when it wasn't known. We knew. And, of course, he got killed. It's now come out, executed. But let's go ahead and play this clip from ABC News. Here it is.
Here, the Taliban lend the farmers the money. They are indebted to the Taliban. They have to grow the opium. Now the Marines, in their success, are in a sense a victim of their success, because now the population is, they have these opium fields, and we are tolerating it. We are tolerating the cultivation of the opium because we know that if we were to destroy it now, the population would turn against the Marines, and it would be a real security risk. Let me introduce Lieutenant Colonel Brian Christmas. He's the commanding officer of the 3rd
This is Fox.
Marines. Really a wonderful group of Marines here. I know that you care deeply about this contradiction, the fact that here you have one of the best fighting forces in the world ever mounted, and in a sense you're watching as this opium is being grown. I know it grinds at your gut. How do you deal with it? What are you doing about it?
Well, frankly, this is a part of their culture. So while it might grind in my gut, it's what they do. We provide them security, we're providing them resources, and we're providing them alternatives. And the alternatives are different crops to grow. They're getting the seed and the fertilizer.
All right, let's stop right there. I got a bunch of these clips. That's Fox News, Geraldo. And we're going to go back to the ABC here in a moment. We're done with Fox now. You can watch the full clip on YouTube. You just type in U.S. soldiers grow opium, heroin, poppy in Afghanistan, and it'll pull up for you. I also have it up on the Alex Jones channel on YouTube. Link there. Now, this one is U.S. military helps terrorists grow heroin, U.S. funding Taliban. Now, let's stop right there before I go any further. The British invaded Afghanistan hundreds of years ago to control this stuff because the Russian czars and others were getting a hold of it and breaking their global monopoly. People wonder how the British, this little bitty island, could take over. A lot of it was they were selling opium worldwide and had addicts working for them and ready to do whatever they were told. But here's the idea. They provide security. They go on. They provide fertilizer. They help them ship it out and, quote, then interdict it once it gets here. Ladies and gentlemen, CIA aircraft and others are constantly crashing. There's been Esquire articles a decade ago where cops in Miami bust a plane full of heroin, planes full of cocaine in Houston. State police busted an 18-wheeler full of cocaine years ago. It was in the Associated Press. On the Texas border, national security was declared, and the cocaine was let go. I know Texas State Police listing, remember that. This is ongoing. Only the low-level dealers get busted or cowboys that haven't paid their cut. I'm going to come back, and I'm going to finish this other ABC News clip. But see, this is how dumb they think you are. The troops are all standing around guarding opium poppies, so they get upset, and the spin is, well, if we don't do this, the Taliban and Al-Qaeda will get it. Well, here's the deal. Opium production went from 10% of world supply out of Afghanistan in 2001 to 90+%. That's right.